us to work on different projects. Imam Hussein Media Group is a crowd-funded project. We have no sales nor do we charge for our services. We solely rely on monthly payments, financial contributions, donations, religious alms and generous gifts. The expenses of each production varies depending on the type of project and the style of filming. There are many elements to a production that requires time and capital. The producer must analyze the costs of the venue hire, equipment, transport, feature fees, set design, staff support and further additional costs. The Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him and his family, narrated, "The best of people is he from whom people benefit." It is up to you to help the Muslim Ummah come together and help guide the youth in remaining on the correct path of Islam. To take part in this global conquest and to spread the message of Imam Hussein, peace and blessings be upon him, please visit www.imamhussein3.tv or give us a call on +44 0203 515 0199. You can also contact us via WhatsApp, Telegram, SMS, or even email us on donate@imamhussein.tv. Let's work together hand in hand to elevate the faith of our Shia youth today.
Are you in court for raping English girls? Remember? You're here defending the paedophile. I'm here defending your dad. These women are here defending the paedophile. You're here defending.
We don't need a TV channel because we've got mosques.
We have Islamic centres that are always open.
We have schools teaching Islam.
Hijab is part of a school uniform.
Islam has come and it's established here in the West.
And everyone's happy.
They love us, our food,
our fashion,
our culture.
The media is always on our side.
We've got plenty of English speakers, plenty of English books,
and plenty of places to go and learn in the English language.
Let's be real.
Let's get active.
Be more involved.
www.imamhussein3.tv.
Jiddu, I need to tell you a secret. I had an exam today and I cheated on the exam, and to be honest, I feel like it's eating me up inside as if it's haram.
Your father used to do the exact something and would always get in trouble. But you have done it now and cannot go back. I don't know if it is haram. Khair inshallah.
Thanks, Jiddu. Jiddu, I wanted to ask if it's halal to buy lottery tickets. They're so cheap and we could make a lot of money.
I don't know if it is halal or haram, but never think about something like that again.
Okay, I was just asking. Jiddu.
Ta'abitni, what do you want now?
I just wanted to ask if Sweet's beef gelatin is halal or haram.
You're supposed to check it before buying it, not after. I don't know if this is halal or haram.
Okay.
What now? I am trying to relax. Why do you keep asking me? تعال هنا الخاطر الله. Just go watch AHKAM SOS. Any question you have, they can answer you. You can call them, message them, anything. Ask as much as you like. They can answer any question from any marja, okay?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, and welcome to AHKAM SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Now, this is a live show and we do take in all your questions. So if you have any questions you'd like to ask, please send them in via the WhatsApp number, should be on the bottom there. And if you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, put your questions in the comment section and inshallah we'll be able to answer them for you. We don't need to know your name, we don't need to know where you're calling from. Just send in your questions anonymously, and inshallah the Sheikh and I will discuss and answer all of your questions. But before we begin, would like to take this opportunity to send our condolences to the Imam of our time and also to the Muslim Ummah on the martyrdom of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. To discuss more on the legacy and the life of Imam Sadiq, we have the one and only Sheikh Ali Maash. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Allah ajurana wa ajurukum on the shahadat of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Before we begin, anything you'd like to say in regards to our Imam, where our fiqh is named after him for his, magnificent teaching and the amount of students he taught, and how our Jafariya fiqh, excelled in the time of Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين عظم الله أجوركم وأجورنا. And condolences on the martyrdom of Imam Sadiq salamullah alayh, and our aza to the Imam of our zaman Ajjallah Farajahu Sharif, his grandson Al-Mahdi min Ali Muhammad Ajjallah Farajahu Sharif. A sad occasion in which the Ummah lost a great Alim, in which 900 of his students used to say حدثني جعفر بن محمد الصادق عليه السلام, that from different sects of Muslims, not just the Shia of Ahl Bayt عليهم السلام, all gained knowledge from this great Imam salamullahi alayh. So it was a great loss. And of course the oppressors, the tyrant leaders, they can't see somebody who can attract so much followers and students from different sects, different beliefs, and teach them. They couldn't take it anymore, so that's why they decided to terminate the Imam's life salamullahi alayh. In Kitab Manaqib al-Abi Talib by Ibn Shahr al-Harshub, he narrates this hadith from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, when a man came to him, and it seems the man was a sinner. In other words, he used to commit some major sins, but he was a lover and a follower of Ahl Bayt alayhi salam. So the Imam said to him, as advice, admonishing this individual, he said to him, إن الحسن من كل أحد حسن وإنه منك أحسن. That the act of good, the good deeds is good from everyone. If somebody is giving charity, is good, even if they are not, let's say, from this religion or this aqidah. They're helping the poor. They're actually, let's say, supporting the orphans, for example, which is good. But from somebody who follows Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam is ahsan, it's better.
Yes.
They want to see us always to be in the front line, in supporting others, in helping, in being pious, and so forth. لِمَكَانِكَ مِنَّا, because of your position beside us, because you're a follower of Ahl Bayt alayhi salam, because you're a Shia of Ahl Bayt, Shia of Sadiq alayhi salam. So avoid committing such sins. And this is the advice for everyone, for those who follow Ahl Bayt alayhi salam, for those who follow Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, to avoid committing sins and try to increase our givings and charity and the wajib ahkam in terms of the acts of worship or transactions and all the dues which we have to basically give. That's ahsan in the sight of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because we are his followers.
Yes.
Otherwise we have even non-Muslims, even could be atheists, who are giving millions to the charities. And do our millionaires give such millions to the charities, for example? So we have to learn from the Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Then he says alayhi salam, وَإِنَّ الْقَبِيحَ مِنْ كُلِّ أَحَدٍ قَبِيحٍ وَإِنَّهُ مِنْكَ أَقْبَحٍ. And the act of evil, of sin, is bad from whoever commits this bad thing. If somebody, God forbid, drinks alcohol, it's bad. But from somebody who follows Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, it's so bad. It's worse. So we shouldn't basically fall into the net and the trap of shaitan by committing these sins, because they are worse in the sight of Imam sallallahu alayhi wa sallam compared to those who are not followers of the Imam alayhi salam. So we try to observe piety, observe akhlaq, observe taqwa, God-fearing, so that we can please Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam and to say to the world that we are the followers of Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq alayhi
salam. Thank you so much. Just a quick reminder to all our viewers that this is a live show. We do take in all of your questions. So if you have a question in regards to any Islamic law, whether it's to do with bank transfers, finance, whether it's to do with marriage, whether it's to do with raising children, whether it's to do with your salah, hajj, your fasting, whatever topic in regards to Islamic law, please send in your questions via the WhatsApp number. You can call in live into the studio 0203 515 0199, and inshallah myself and the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer your questions. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, put your questions in the comment section, and inshallah the technical team will send it to me on my trusted iPad here, and inshallah we'll be able to answer your questions. Sheikhna, we do have some questions from last episode we didn't answer, so let us start with those. Assalamu alaikum Sheikhna, this is from WhatsApp. Is a ladies salon business a halal earning? Thank you.
As long as the one who is actually dealing with the hairstyles and so forth is not a male.
Yes.
So it's a female with a female. That should be fine.
Okay. What if the male wants to invest and open a hair salon business, but he doesn't work there? He's just a silent partner.
There's no issue with it. He's investing, but he's not dealing with the women's hair and so forth directly. That should be fine.
Fantastic. Another one we didn't answer last week from WhatsApp. Assalamu alaikum. Is it okay to save for retirement in the bank, because that is the only place we can save safely, knowing that it will generate interest? Is it permissible to choose where to save for retirement by comparing the interest earned from these retirement plans which have set amount of interest earned?
Initially we have to see the ulama who would allow for such transactions in terms of getting such interest from those saving, let's say, investment banks and so forth. And number two, if that was allowed, then of course there's a khumus on this interest. So they have to calculate, let's say, for every khums due date, they have to also take away 20% of that gained interest and saving, if they're going to basically withdraw that saving to use it and pay khumus on these interests and savings as well.
Question from WhatsApp here. Assalamu alaikum Sheikhna. I'm a muqallid of Ayatollah Sistani, and according to my marja, is it permissible for women to wear perfume when going out of their homes?
What the Saint mentions that it is not permissible if she do so, and that would result in non-mahram men aroused and attracted by this, let's say, strong scent of the perfume. There are some perfumes, especially if you bought from the Gulf countries, you could smell it from 3-4 meters. So if that attracts the opposite gender, of course, that would be forbidden. And the Sayyid adds to this that if she intends to attract men by wearing this perfume, of course, that would be also haram. So either way, she has to be very careful not to actually put that much or that strong in which would attract the opposite gender.
If there was a case that one did not know a specific ruling, what should he do? And Sheikhna, I think this is very, very common amongst most of our brothers and sisters who are not well versed with fiqh. They're not sure whether they should do an act or they should not do an act, or which act is farad upon them at the time. What is the taklif? What should one do in that situation?
Well, one should actually refrain from performing that act. Let's say, is it halal for me to buy lottery, for example?
Yeah.
You have to avoid buying. First go and ask, research, see if it's allowed or not allowed. Then you can actually act upon the fatwa of your marja. If you couldn't find any ways and so forth, you have to now apply the ihtiyat to be as a precautious. Avoid doing that act until you get the right answer.
I see. Assalamu alaikum Sheikhna. I'm a muqallid of Sayyid Sistani. Are men and women allowed to work together in the same company? Sheikhna, this is something that happens a lot in the West, especially when we live with non-Muslims. There are ladies who work in the same company with men. They don't observe Islamic hijab because they're not Muslim and so forth. Whether we are at school teaching, in government office buildings, media companies, wherever in the West, it does happen that we may have female work colleagues and so forth. Is this acceptable?
The Sayyid mentions that if they don't fall into the act of sin as a result of this mixed work environment, one can preserve his own, preserve and protect his desires as a result of this interaction with the opposite gender and at work, and be pious, muttaqi, then there's no issue with it. They can actually work. So they have to avoid the haram contacts with the opposite gender at work. They're very important. And the same applies to schools, colleges, universities. And even if you go for shopping, for example, you have to observe taqwa and piety. Do not look intentionally with the aim and the objective of a lustful look, for example, or temptation and so forth. So you have to basically apply at all time taqwa and piety when you deal with the opposite gender.
I see. Sheikh, what is the ruling on a piece of living tissue or flesh from an animal that has gushing blood when you slaughter it?
Well, that piece is not permissible. It's not pure, so it's najis basically.
Okay.
You have to avoid it. For example, in salah, you have to avoid touching. If your hands are wet, makes your hands najis as a result. So yes, you just have to avoid it because of najasa.
Sheikhna, from YouTube we're getting quite a lot of questions there. Should the Bismillah be said out loud during the Jahri prayers?
We have a hadith by the Imam, Salamullah alayhi, one of the Askariyan alayhi salam, when he said, وَالْجَهْرِ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ. One of the signs of the mu'min, the sign of the Ahlul Bayt's followers, is to say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim aloud.
Aloud, yeah.
وَالْجَهْرِ Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is a hadith.
Fair enough. From YouTube, having a lengthy beard and moustache, Sheikhna, is it haram?
No, but the recommended is to have a shorter moustache.
The beard,
the Prophet.
The beard should be how long?
Up to
one fist?
Yeah, that's it.
Fair enough. Another YouTube question. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. I have a gold coin from my late father with my other jewelry. I have never used it for all these years. What is the ruling on that? I'm assuming he's talking about khums on the gold coin which he has inherited. I'm assuming, because there can't be anything else.
In overall, there's no khumus on the inheritance, especially if the father used to pay khumus. But the thing is, he hasn't used them for the past couple of years, which means these jewels or treasures, let's say, haven't been used for a couple of years. So might khumus would be applied on these items. I mean, we have to make sure, to check for this mas'ala. If khumus, because if they have used that straight away, it should be fine. But because they left it, and now this jewelry became as a surplus, excess. So there might be khumus. I'm not sure about it.
Fantastic. Sorry, Sheikh, I'm just going to go back to the questions. Assalamu alaikum. If a drop of blood falls into food that is being cooked while it is boiling, what happens to the cooked food?
Well, the entire food becomes impure because of this impure substance falling into the saucepan, and even the pan becomes najis, impure. The fire and the heat would not purify this food because they are not part of the mutahhirat, in other words, purifiers. So they have to basically, change, throw away all this. Well, if it's a piece of meat, they can wash the meat or the chicken. But sometimes the soup or the stew, you can't do anything with it.
Now, Sheikh, one will argue that I was cooking, a blood dropped. I can see it, it's just there.
Yeah.
I got my spoon and picked it up. All of it is contained in that's drop. I've picked all of it up and I've got rid of it. That should be okay, no?
The problem with liquid, it actually cross-contaminates and spreads the najasa as a result. It's not like a solid, let's say butter, for example.
Yeah, you can just cut that piece off.
You can just cut that piece, exactly. So it's going to basically ruin the whole thing.
Wow, fantastic. Okay, Sheikhna, coming from WhatsApp, Assalamu alaikum. Is the salah valid if one who is in the first row performs Takbiratul Ihram before the one who is immediately behind the Imam or close to him? Similarly, if the salah valid if someone in the back row performs Takbiratul Ihram before those who are in the first row? Okay, we're here to perform Jama'ah salah. For argument's sake, let's say the Imam of the Jama'ah has done Takbiratul Ihram. He's done it. Do I need to wait for the people in the first row to do it, for me to do it? What if the people in the first row have done it before the actual person standing right behind the Imam of the prayer? What about those who are behind me? They do Allahu Akbar before I've done it and so forth. Is the prayer still okay?
Yeah, the prayer is valid because now they're all ready to perform the takbirah. So because of the readiness, you can start before them. That's fine. There's no issue with it.
Fine. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. The university authorities give a username and password to each student through which the students can access the internet. Is it permissible to use someone else's username and password without their knowledge? Also, is it permissible to use the username of another student from another sect?
Well, if by the common norms or by the urf, this act known to be as the rights, having someone's, someone who has his own passwords, you're actually violating the rights by taking their password and using the internet. Of course, that is not permissible, except with their permission, as a obligatory precaution, because now we have rights. It's like they give some example, like if you have someone's house and the door is open, can you go inside without permission or knocking the door
No.
or ringing the bell? Exactly. So you're actually using their Wi-Fi or data, mobile data, without their permission. That's the issue. You need permission
Understood.
for that.
Sheikhna, what is the ruling in regards to halal meat animals that do not have gushing blood? For example, fish, if it dies naturally.
In overall, such animals like a fish, as you mentioned, it's pure and tahir. But because it died inside the water, it's not permissible for the one to consume it. What makes the fish halal to consume is, number one, to be brought out by the hand of a human being, not a Muslim only. Let's say through a net or a tool, any type. You have to make sure that it's been brought out by the humans and dies on the outside the water. So that's the important for making this fish halal. So that's the tadhkiyah of the fish.
Can I gift my obligatory and desirable prayers, fasting and charity to the living and deceased believers, according to His Eminence the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani?
Yes, the Sayyid mentions that you are allowed to do so. You can gift all your a'mal, the good mustahab a'mal, or even wajib ones to those who actually are still living, let's say parents, brothers and sisters and so forth. Should be fine.
Sheikhna, is it permissible to work in a company whose owner is a non-Kitabi, given that the company does not deal with prohibited products and there is currently no alternative Muslim employer?
There's no issue with it. Basically you're not dealing with the haram, for example, products such as alcohol and pork. You're not actually selling them or serving them on the table, for example. You're doing something else. That should be fine, as long as you're not dealing with the haram items. Then you can actually work in that place.
Sheikhna, we're going to go for a short break. Join us after the break as we continue our discussion here on AHKAM SOS.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures of
Is it
scholars
permissible
at
to
home.
plant trees by or
What
over
Islam
the
establish
graves? based on peace and
Is it permissible
non-violence.
to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it permitted to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim countries?
Is there an issue for men looking at non-Muslim women? To have your questions answered live, call in on +44 2035 150199 or WhatsApp us on +44 7415 092155. Alternatively, you can also email us on ahkamsos@imamhussein.tv.
Even death was not able to separate Abbas from Hussein, just as the haram of Abbas cannot be separated from the haram of Hussein, in the same way that Safa can never be separated from the mountain of Marwa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the mountain of Safa and Marwa to be from the sha'air Allah. Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the haram of Abbas and the haram of Hussein to be sha'air Allah al-kubra. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed that between the haram of Abbas and the haram of Hussein, there is a land of mawaddah, there is a land of azar, there is a land of ishq, there is a land of junoon. This is the land of Bayn al-Haramain. So long as this haram of Abbas and the haram of Hussein remains, people until the day of judgment will beat their faces and chests shouting, Ya Abbas and Ya Hussein. The divine decree of Allah is that from the land of Bayn al-Haramain, every time a tear is shed for Hussein, a tear is shed for Abbas. It is the divine decree that from Bayn al-Haramain, so long as there is a chant Ya Hussein, it will be accompanied with a chant Ya Abbas. The decree of Allah is that Abbas can never be separated from Hussein.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, and welcome back to AHKAM SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Now, if you have a question you'd like to ask, we don't need to know your name, we don't need to know where you're asking from, just send in your questions on the WhatsApp number down here. There may be a QR code somewhere in the corner there, that'll take you straight to the WhatsApp page. You can type in your question there. If you're watching on Facebook Live, or you're watching on YouTube, put your questions in the comment section, and inshallah the technical team will send me those questions. If you want to give us a call, 0203 515 0199. If you're in the UK, if you're outside the UK, the WhatsApp number, you can call that, and inshallah you'll get through to the show and we'll be able to discuss and answer your questions. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum.
Sheikhna, this is an evening where we are commemorating the tragic martyrdom of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Is there anything you could add to what you said earlier on Imam Sadiq and such a great personality?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yes, indeed, Imam Sadiq salamullah alayhi has mentioned in numerous hadith about the qualities and the features of the Shia, as mentioned at the beginning of the session. There's another hadith by the Imam salamullah alayhi. He talks about the genuine Shia, let's say. He says, كذب من زعم أنه من شيعتنا. This individual who claims to be a Shia of Al-Bayt is a liar, with this condition. وهو متمسك بعروة غيرنا in وسائل الشيعة by حر العاملي. While he is beholding on the let's say the aqidah or the beliefs or the acts of others other than Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. You see, we have this problem now in the Shia world, where there are people who would try to, make themselves as peacekeepers between the Shia and the non-Shia, and try to create that unity between the Shia and the non-Shia. But at what cost? At the cost of abolishing the tabarra, the bara'a from a'da Allah Azza wa Jal. That's the problem with these conferences and sessions and meetings, where the tabarra is being almost ignored, neglected, for that cost, for pleasing the other side, to please the followers of the enemies of of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. That's the problem. So the Imam says no, they are liars. They are not a genuine Shia. While they respect the other side's leaders, or for the cost of gaining some kind of fame, respect, I don't know, some politics involved as well. So one should be frank and open and try to be strong in his belief in Aqidah. That's our Aqidah. This is our books, from Kafi all the way to Bihar al-Anwar. Very open. Hadith Ahlul Bayt is very open about the enemies of Ahlul Bayt, those who killed Ahlul Bayt from day one till now, killing their followers. So there's no compromise. There's no way that we can, let down our Aqidah for the cost of us trying to run behind those who would not even consider us as Shia, as Muslims. Sorry. So that's the problem. The Imam says the true Shia is the one who is, steadfast, strong in his Aqidah, in his belief, in tawalla and tabarra, and to be open with your enemy. That's our Aqidah. As we have in the Kitabullah, when he says that those who claim to, for example, that in Allah Allah is three, they're kafir, khalas. We can't say to them, oh, sorry, we respect your Trinity belief, we respect Paul, Matthew, Luke, and those who came and forged and changed the Bible. No, we say kafir, khalas. So we have to be strong in our Aqidah, to be a true follower of Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq, salamullah alayhi.
Ahsan, Sheikhna. Sheikhna, questions are coming in, and if for those of you who want to send in your questions, please send it in via the WhatsApp, or if you're watching YouTube or you're watching Facebook Live, you can put it in the comment section. There should be a QR code somewhere there, inshallah. Okay, Sheikhna, is it permissible for the follower to recite Surah Al-Hamd and other surahs in congregational prayer according to His Eminence the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani?
It seems to be that Sayyid Hafidhahullah, who would not accept for the one in Salat al-Maghrib, for example, which is the Imam is reading the surah aloud, to recite aloud, not permissible. And the same as well with the precaution, if Hamd was recited in Salat al-Dhuhr silently, and you would recite silently as well with the Imam. So in both cases you cannot recite these two surah. If you're in Jama'ah behind the Imam, you have to be quiet, or as I said before, you can say dhikr, subhanallah, la ilaha illallah. But Hamd and surah, if you're in Jama'ah, you have to keep quiet and just listen to the Imam's recitation. I see.
Is it mandatory that the body is motionless during the standing prayer position in prayer? So qiyam, should you be motionless? It happens sometimes, Sheikhna. We see people rocking a little bit, and sometimes people are tired and they stretch as well and so forth. When we're in salah, in qiyam, should we be motionless?
Yes, indeed, one of the conditions of salah that you have to be motionless and stable. You can't move and basically
rock. Start scratching and stuff.
No, these are slight things. They could be makruh somehow, but what makes the salah, unacceptable or maybe even batil is when you try to move to the left and right. Lift your, let's say, left or right, for example, foot. You have to be stable and follow the sequence of the salah. The muwalat and everything must be preserved in the salah. Of course, if one is in a plane, train, bus, that of course the ahkam would be a bit different, because you don't have control over the movement of the vehicle. And of course, if you reach your destination, the salah will be qada. So you have no choice except to pray in the vehicle. While it's moving, then you can't do anything about it. You do your best to pray with motionless. Otherwise, you pray.
I see. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. A person has some money, he pays khums. With that money, he purchases some land. The person passes away and leaves it to his son. Now his son is going to sell the land. Does he have to pay khums on that land that he sold?
As I've just said now, a few minutes ago, that khumus is not payable on inheritance, especially if the father used to pay khumus. So all the money, there are exemptions in terms of not paying khumus on specific wealth gained. Let's say mahar of the woman, this situation, inheritance. There's no khumus on inheritance.
Fair enough. Sheikhna, more questions coming from our viewers. Respected Sheikhna, are Shia allowed to eat prawns?
Yes, indeed. One of the exceptions in terms of the seafood, that we can eat prawns, according to the narrations of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Other than that, squids, lobster, crabs, all
not allowed.
Haram.
Even prawns, I mean, it's quite broad, isn't it? There's shrimp, there's prawns, there's some other types as well. So you've got to be careful with that. Is a mother allowed to abort the fetus if she does not want it, while the soul has not entered it and there is no serious danger to the mother's life? That's from WhatsApp, Sheikhna. Abortion, very, very early stages of the pregnancy, is a lady, a sister, is she allowed to abort the baby if there's no threat on her life and there's no threat on the baby neither?
Well, according to the ulama, it is not permissible to abort a child or fetus. You can't do that at all, unless with the exception of being the life of the mother in dangerous and she's between life and death. In other words, that if she wants to stay alive, they have to abort the child. Then that's of course exception. Otherwise, she cannot abort that child.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sheikh, a question here from one of our viewers. Assalamu alaikum. Do dinosaurs really exist according to Islam? And if so, is it real that dinosaurs were alive 65 million years ago? How did they live? And Nabi Adam alayhi salam didn't come down to earth 65 million years back. How can you explain it? So Sheikh, someone here is asking, did dinosaurs really exist? Dinosaurs arguably existed 65 million years ago and so forth. How come Hazrat Adam alayhi salam was he living amongst dinosaurs? Did he explain anything and so forth? Any of the prophets, have they said anything about dinosaurs?
To be honest, I haven't seen or read anything about the dinosaurs in the narrations in Tafasir. To be honest, I haven't seen anything. I mean, currently we see that the scientists are trying to discover more and more about the remains of the dinosaurs and the bones and so forth. So it's to do with the science. We have to ask the science the origin of these discoveries. I haven't seen anything. There is something about the pre-creation of Adam alayhi salam.
Yes.
That there were people like Adam, not exactly like Adam, with the name of Nasnas. So we have Insan and Nasnas. So Nasnas was before Insan, a human being. Something similar.
Even I heard with Iblis, Shaitan, that he was on earth before. The earth was occupied by the jinn. And so there was other living beings before man came onto earth.
Before Adam,
there was living things on earth.
In which they have shed the blood and created corruption.
Yes. From YouTube, Sheikhna, what is Tark al-Awla?
Tark al-Awla means that the Prophet did something which he shouldn't have done, for example.
Not suited.
I'll give example that if you see a Alim, let's say a Marja, who would walk in the streets and eat a sandwich, for example, and drink, for example, it's not suitable for Alim. It's not haram for him. He's hungry, he's thirsty. But he should wait for a couple of minutes until he reaches his home, for example, or his office.
Not to eat in public.
Exactly. It's not suitable for, let's say, people like, in positions.
I've heard.
It's not haram. It's not a sin.
I've heard even with politicians, they shouldn't have their sleeves showing. You'll never see a leader of a country wearing shorts or having a t-shirt or something like that. There's other unwritten rules, you could say, which are not like suited. There's nothing wrong with the politician wearing shorts or a t-shirt and so forth, Islamically even speaking, but it's just not suited, it doesn't look right, and so forth. I'm sure a lot of our fashion experts will be telling us, yes, certain colours don't match and so forth, and certain items of clothing, they should not be put together, regardless whether it's halal or haram. From WhatsApp, Sheikh, is it permissible to buy a carving or a statue of a human being or an animal, male or female, for decoration pieces?
Well, making them is an issue by the ulama, to craft them, that's the issue. Buying, it seems to be, I'm not sure. Because
there's some famous art pieces that we have in the galleries. David's one of the most famous ones. I think it's done by Michelangelo. But there's sculptures and so forth, especially the Greeks and the Romans had a lot of sculptures. People will go to the museums to have a look and art galleries to see them and so forth. Another question here from WhatsApp. Can we eat the food that is cooked by a Hindu? Very interesting question.
The problem is, in terms of the impurity, the cross-contamination of their wet hands with the food, that would turn the food into an impure substance in which we cannot consume. So that's the big issue with eating such food from those individuals. Ahlul Kitab, many of the ulama today recognize them as tahir and pure. In which, yes, you can eat from their hands, Ahlul Kitab. But other than the Ahlul Kitab, it's an issue.
Fair enough. Yeah. From WhatsApp, is it permissible to use gold and silver cufflinks, pins and tie pins as a form of beautification? Very interesting question here, Sheikhna. I'm sure you've seen it yourself. Tie pins, cufflinks and so forth that people wear. If sometimes, they're made out of gold and silver, are we allowed to wear these items? What for salah time? Can we pray with these items on?
Well, men are not allowed to wear gold, absolutely. So that's the issue. The problem is we cannot wear gold.
Silver is okay?
Silver is okay, but the gold is forbidden for men.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. Can I go walk with a girl classmate without any haram act? That's from WhatsApp. Okay, let's say there's two people, they share the same class at university, they're walking towards the classroom, it's time to go for the class. Are they allowed to walk together?
You see what the Holy Quran states, it says, وَلَا مُتَّخِذِ أَخْدَانِ, and do not take them as, opposite gender, as friends, friendship. Khadan means friendship. Sometimes it's a coincidence where you've been walking towards the class and she's with you, or even the female teacher, for example, or the opposite gender. But sometimes it becomes like a friendship. That's the issue. One should be very careful because the shaitan plays a big role in such places.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. Is it allowed, according to Sayyid Ali al-Sistani, to go to mixed swimming pools even if I try not to look at the woman? I live in a foreign country and it is a sort of zina, according to his great evidence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani.
The Sayyid wouldn't allow for the one to go and
to a mixed
be in that mixed pool. Here's an issue. Of course, the issue of not looking intentionally could be discussed.
Yes.
That the same applies to when we go to the park or to some of the shopping centers or some streets in central London.
Yeah, or the beach.
In August, in July.
Yes, the parks especially.
So, what's the hukum then? So, the main hukum that you must not look intentionally with that lustful intention. But as I've said, the Sayyid would not allow it. It's very difficult. One should be precautious with this regard.
I see. From WhatsApp, Assalamu alaikum. As earlier it was mentioned, there is no khums on inheritance, but what if after getting the inheritance it is not used for 1 year? Khums is still not applicable? That's a really good question actually. Sheikhna, I've inherited something from my father. It's worth quite a lot of money. It comes in my surplus. I don't pay khums on it. And then I don't use that for another year. Let's say it's a property. My dad's left me a property. I leave it on rent. 1 year's gone by now. The money that I've earned from the rent and so forth, is khums applied on that or not? The value of the property has increased. Do I have to pay khums on that?
What the ulama mentioned that if the value goes up, then the khums would apply on the value, on that extra value. So you have to pay khums on that extra value. But anyhow, we need to look into this mas'ala because now you have an unused land or property for the whole year, and the khums time came, and this land has been paid khums already. But as I've said, if the value goes up, the gold or the silver or the land, then of course you have to pay khums on the excess and an extra value of that gold or let's say land or property in which you've inherited from your parents, for example.
Fantastic. I think we have another question. I'm just reading it. There's not much. I don't think there's a question there. Someone says on YouTube, "Oh Allah, curse Abu Bakr, curse Aisha, curse Hafsa, curse Umar for murdering our beloved Prophet Muhammad and Fatima Zahra and stealing Sadiq, and curse Aisha for fighting Imam Ali, peace be upon him." So Sheikhna, this is someone's sent in a nice tabarra message. Thank you very much, and inshallah may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Ahlul Bayt accept your tabarra and disassociating from the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt. That's all we have time for at the moment. Thank you very much, Sheikhna, for your service and for answering questions, and thank you to all the viewers for joining us on this episode of Ahkam SOS. If you have a question you'd like to send in, please send it in via the WhatsApp. You can scan the QR code over there somewhere, and that'll take you straight to the WhatsApp page. If not, you can send us an email. If you're watching on Facebook Live, you're watching on YouTube, put your questions in the comment section, and inshallah myself and the Sheikh will return back on Wednesday here on Imam Hussein TV 3, 7 p.m. Join us then. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
As lovers of the Ahlul Bayt, we all have an inclination to the epitome of love. When we rejoice, when times are hard, whatever stage of life we are in, we all yearn to be in one special place. We all wish to visit the blessed shrine of Imam Hussein in the holy city of Karbala. Not all of us have the blessing to visit the shrine of Imam Hussein, but there is still a way to experience the sights and sound of the blessed land of Karbala in the comfort of your own homes.
We call upon you, dear viewers, to support us in our financial costs to help bring the holy land of Karbala beaming into your homes. You can support us with a monthly donation of just $50 or £30. We are your gateway to Karbala. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Imam Hussein TV 3. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In today's hadith of the day, I'm going to share with you a saying from our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him and his family, which is recorded in Biharul Anwar. The Holy Prophet advised, when making a decision to do something, think about its outcome. If it's good for you and for your advancement and development, then follow it. But if it is misleading, leave it out. Life is full of many ups and downs, and many important decisions which must be made, many of which can be scary at times and make us uncertain. Here, the Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, is giving us a very simple advice: to reflect on each decision we make and not to make decisions with haste. Much like many motivational speakers tell us today, the Prophet told us 1400 years ago that we should do things that help us advance in life and develop our character. And he tells us, if the decision will lead to detriment, not to do it. It may sound like simple advice, but in these hectic lives that we live in, it is a reminder to pause and reflect on decisions we make, however big and however small. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Imam Hussein Media Group is a virtual university that works on a global scale to spread the true message of the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt's peace and blessings be upon them. Imam Hussein TV was established 10 years ago in the city of Isfahan, Iran. We work to cover all aspects of religion, Islamic jurisprudence,